Today we're going to make chicken piccata, classic Italian recipe, easy and quick to make. This is a crowd pleaser. Here's the first thing we got to do is we've got to pound it out so it's thin. It doesn't matter so much whether it's thick or thin, but it has to be the same thickness across the entire cutlet, or else you cook the fat part until it's cooked through and the skinny part is dried out and leathery. Hand flat on the top, fingers out straight, knife parallel with the countertop. Halfway through, we're just going to go straight across the middle of the chicken breast, all the way across. But they're still thicker on one end than they are on the other. Put this one here. So if you have a meat tenderizer, a mallet, you can use that, but you're going to be here all day. I like a big heavy skillet because you have a giant paddle, basically. Huge. Yeah, I went a little aggressive on that one. It's kind of shredded at the end, so you do want to be careful not to go too hard. You want to be sure and wipe this whole area. We use the plastic so you don't spray raw chicken juices all over your kitchen, but nevertheless, it's on the board, it's on the bag. You want to make sure and really scour this area when you're done. Okay, our chicken is pounded out to an even thickness, and now we're going to the next station. So I've got 3 ingredients here: salt and pepper, and then all-purpose flour. So let's get that started, get some heat on there. I've got the oven on low, 200 degrees, and I've got a metal pan in there. So I'm going to use that because these chicken pieces are going to have to cook probably 1 at a time, maybe 2 at a time, and they're going to go in there and hold. So I'm going to slightly undercook them because they're going to cook more in here, and I don't want them, again, to get dried out and leathery. So what we're going to do is we're going to use part olive oil, part butter. We'd use all butter if we could because it's butter. But the olive oil will allow it to get to a higher temperature before scorching, and that's important for cooking the chicken. So I'm going to put in about a tablespoon of olive oil. Not too much because I'm going to add some with each piece of chicken. Just a thin piece of butter like that. And I'm going to put that in the pan, let those melt. They're going to get foamy and sizzly, and in the meantime I'm going to take one of these pieces of chicken, so I don't need to season it because I seasoned the flour, and I'm going to put it in the flour, shake it off, put it in the flour. So this is what I want. I don't want a lot of excess flour. I want it dusted with flour like that. You hear the sizzling has stopped. So I'm going to lay it down there. And I'm going to grab another one of these because I can fit it. Now the flour is performing 2 functions here. The first function is going to put a nice brown crust on that chicken. The second is that it's going to thicken my sauce. Again, it's probably going to take about 2 minutes aside because it's very thin, and I want to undercook it some, especially these first pieces, because they're going to be in the pan the longest. But if I notice it starting to smoke, starting to blacken in there, I'm going to pull it off the heat and let it cool a bit and turn the heat down a little. Just give it a second before I put it back on. Don't let the heat get ahead of you, and if you see black or smoke or if it's just going too fast, feel free to pull it off the burner and turn it down and just take a 5 count. So I'm going to take a peek. All right, so that's not done enough, but this golden, almost orangey edge, that's what you want. Okay, so we're going to flip that over now. There, I've got a nice brown, tawny crust here. We're going to give another couple minutes on there, and then it's going to go into the pan. Put this in here before somebody gets burned. So while we're waiting for that, let's talk about the sauce. I've got chicken stock, fresh lemon juice, and capers, and a little more butter. And remember that flour is going to thicken that sauce. Not a lot, but it's going to be thicker than just melted butter and chicken broth. It's going to have kind of almost a thick, it's going to have a thicker feel to it.
Velvety on the tongue.
Yes, it's kind of, thank you. It's going to have almost velvety appearance, and it'll feel that way on the tongue as well. Okay, I've browned the first side, flipped it over. I've got a beautiful golden crust on this. I'm done cooking my chicken, and now it's time to make the sauce. I'm going to turn my heat down to about medium-low, and I'm going to start with a nice hunk of butter. Now I'm going to hit it with some chicken broth. The amount depends on how much sauce you want. You don't want extra sauce. You only want enough to cover the chicken or else you're wasting flavor. So I'm going to put about half a can in here because I am going to cook some of it off. I'm going to take a wooden scraper and I'm going to get all these little bits. Now that broth is reducing and mixing with the butter and the flour, and it's starting to develop that velvety appearance. I'm going to hit it with some lemon juice. Now I have squeezed these into a glass jar so I can get the seed. So I've got a whole lemon. That seems like a lot. I'm going to start with half. I can always add more, but if it's too lemony. And now I'm going to add the capers. I've got the heat still. I'm going to keep it probably medium because I want to cook off some of this and reduce it. That concentrates the flavor, and again, any extra broth or sauce is just water and you're wasting flavor. If I can get the same flavor in a smaller amount of water, that's a stronger sauce. So now these chicken breasts are still warm. They're going to go to a nice platter, and when this is ready, you're going to take your sauce that's just barely enough and you're going to drizzle it over all of the chicken breasts, and then you hit it with some chopped parsley if you have any. I don't have any. We are in quarantine after all. Okay, so now my sauce is reduced. You can see it's gotten darker. It's a beautiful golden brown, and if I drag the spoon across the pan, it takes a long time for it to fill back in. There's less sauce than you need to fill the pan. So I'm going to stop now. I've got plenty of flavor here and just the right amount of sauce. And that's chicken piccata. Enjoy. I hope you try it and leave me some notes on my blog and let me know how it went. Are we rolling? In 3, 2. Okay. That you can make with what?
Nothing.
And I do that only because it's a lot easier and less messy to mix them in a bowl than it is to mix them on a plate. But it's still a little messy. Part butter. I'm going to get a butter knife. Stay right there. Put the fan on here, and it's a little loud on the video, but it's nothing compared to the smoke alarm. Okay.
The cereal box
People eat cereal. Now I have squeezed these into a glass jar so I can get the seeds out. If you have another way to strain them, it's probably more efficient than mine. And I might do this beforehand next time.